Good morning. At least it's morning here. And I realize that this is a global audience and it may not be morning from where you're joining in. So I really appreciate you taking the effort to be here. And I'm just honored that you're interested in this work. And the work that I'm doing right now in these LinkedIn Lives is based on the book I'm right now authoring. And it's called From Conflict to Courage: How to Stop Avoiding and Start Leading. And I like to see who's here, and it takes a little bit of a time delay. If you would type in your name and where you're from, and I'll recognize a few people, and I will step back in and recognize off and on. I'll multitask. I'm getting a lot better at it, which proves the point that you can get better at anything if you keep practicing. I'm really excited to do this piece on building and leading from emotional integrity. All right. So I'm going to start with a couple of questions just to lay the framework. And the question is, do you ever lose your cool and then you have regret? Like, do you have a pattern of that? Do you work with someone that loses their cool, that you feel like you have to walk on eggshells and that you kind of hold back or you withdraw? Or do you describe yourself as, I have an anger problem? I'm going to talk about that in a minute, because no matter how hard you try, it seems like you can't stop avoiding when you're around that kind of rude person, or you can't stop blowing up even though you try. So that's what we're going to talk about. Finally, I see people coming in. I'm going to say hello. Hi there, Susan. Hi, Lauren. Hi, Chris. Hi there from Saudi Arabia, getting quite an audience there. And Shannon, a friend of mine. Justin from India. India again? I don't know. That must be a good time for India. I'm not sure what the time zone is. David Burris, another person I've worked with, a friend of mine. Hey, Gail. I'm just glad my friends are joining. That makes me feel really good. We're going to get started here. Thank you so much, people from all over the world. And I'm going to try some different time zones in the next month. Hi, Gerald. So much to keep up with. I'll try to check back in. Thank you all for letting me know where you're coming from. I will check in later and try to look at some of your comments. There is a chat. Thanks to those of you that are in the chat. I know that can be a little bit disconcerting with emails coming in. Glad to be here. Glad to be here. Thanks for hanging out with that. And if there's a discussion that you want after this, I will keep the chat open for a couple of weeks. I'm just figuring out how to do that. So I'm learning right with you. All right. So today we're here to talk about leading from emotional integrity. Now, I did a program with LinkedIn Learning, which is through LinkedIn Learning. You can purchase the program to buy content and watch and learn. And my first one was anger management. And how that came about was I kept getting clients that would say things like, I have an anger problem. And to be honest with you, I felt like at times I had an anger problem, and was even told that by some people, being a little bit too brash sometimes. And it was something that interested me. So I started studying anger. And what I came to understand was that you don't necessarily have an anger problem. Anger is not a problem. It's a feeling, it's an emotion, and I use those words interchangeably, even though they're distinct. But anger is telling you something. It's an energy that wants to go somewhere. And anger is not a problem. Generally, it's an awareness problem, that we're not aware of our triggers, or we're not aware when we've reached capacity. And therefore, that's our coping mechanism. And I know that it's scary to be around angry people that have that disposition. And a lot of times they have a blind spot and don't even know that they're angry. So I'm going to talk about how old programming, this is programming from when we're 0 to 8 years old, we get programmed, and then we have coping mechanisms. And so I am making in my book, and I'm not a neuroscientist or a psychologist, I really just share what has worked for me and understanding that has worked for my life and for my clients. And so I'm making a distinction from emotional intelligence, which is used a lot. And I think maybe we use it and don't completely understand it, because I love Dr. Daniel Goleman's work. But we use that a lot. We use emotional awareness. So, I've got a definition, which I'm going to read here, which is emotional, the EQ. The capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. I think a lot of us, we understand that, and we're even aware, and we might be able to manage our relationships, and yet there's still some missing pieces. So the missing piece that out there, I believe, is the willingness to let other people know what's going on inside of you. Because what I've realized in the work I do, that a lot of times there's this elephant in the room. You're working with a high conflict individual and you dread it. And yes, you can keep yourself intact and you can manage it. You can even smile and say things are okay. And that might be a form of emotional intelligence, but it doesn't resolve the conflict that you feel toward that person. So with emotional integrity, there's no more pretending that things are okay when they aren't. There's no laughing when you don't think it's funny. There's no more avoiding, and there's no more lashing out. And that's a hard one right there. There's no more lashing out when you finally had enough, because you understand what your emotions are telling you. And you also, in order to maintain relationship, you're not afraid to give your cards away. You're very clear on your own power and your own boundaries. So I'm going to share with you here in a minute the 3 courage components, the 3 courage components of that. And I'm going to check in really quickly. Hi there. I see a lot of LinkedIn users. So if it says that, hi, Hagar Shelah. Got a lot of people from across the world, as well as people here in the US. Hey, Amanda, a friend of mine, a past client. I always think my clients are my friends. So those things are they're intertwined, even though I know there's boundaries between working relationships and so on. Hi, Jamie from Maryland. Another from India. All right, so let's keep going. I'm going to give you the 3 components, what I call the 3 courage components. The courage to take responsibility for your experience. Most of us think we do that. I thought I did that until I started working on this book, and I realized you teach what you need to learn, and there's a lot more depth to taking responsibility for your experience. Even if someone is rude, even if someone does you wrong, even if something hurts your feelings, it's the ability to stay out of the victim mindset and to understand that you have choices, and that part of the equation is what you've allowed. Part of it is what the other person did or didn't do, said or didn't say. And another part of it is your choice, your ability to make different decisions and to even challenge your narrative about what it means, what someone said and what they meant. I know that I'm a different person now than I was 20 years ago. Things that used to hurt my feelings, I now just see as feedback. So we all see truth from where we stand, where we are. And so put this into context of you leading other people. Depending on your employees' development, there's going to be things that you do or say that might hurt someone's feelings, but might seem very normal to someone else. And if you haven't noticed, we're living in times that are very sensitive and everybody's offended about something. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be offended about certain things, but it's getting to the point to where there's this lack of balance. I hope to bring some balance to these kind of issues. So let's talk about separately. I've already talked about taking responsibility for your experience. So I want to talk about the next component is the courage to face your dark side. We all have a dark side. No one's perfect. Authors that write books, they teach what they need to learn. We have an imagination that they live in this bubble of perfection or that they've got everything figured out that they write about. That's just not true. And in order to be really authentic and true to your work, in my opinion, you have to be willing to know your dark side. I can tell you some of mine. I'm not going to tell you all of it, but I can tell you that I'm impatient. Something I've worked on, slowing down my speech patterns. I had a lot of critique about that in the early days of my speaking, and it would make me so angry. I would just think, just listen faster. But it was good feedback, and I've worked on that. Impatience. I can be very impatient, very driven to an end result versus seeing the bigger picture and the journey along the way. But I look at it this way. The places where we have a dark side or a blind spot is really our opportunity to grow. I'm really thankful that I've had these challenges because I have such empathy for my coaching clients, for my consulting clients. So, it's the courage to really face your dark side. And that means telling yourself the truth. If you feel jealous, tell yourself the truth about it. Doesn't mean that's the truth of what is. It means that's how you're interpreting. If you feel like you're not enough, okay, so that's an interpretation. Tell yourself the truth. Once you tell yourself the truth and you can quit avoiding, then you can work on it and figure out what's going on, because we lie to ourselves all the time, and that creates a lot of head drama, a lot of conflict, because we can't manage ourselves, therefore we can't help to manage others. And then finally, this is the biggie, the courage to represent yourself. What I mean by representing yourself is you don't represent other people. I call that power of attorney. You can use this with your employees as well. When they come to you and say, everybody says, you just back up and say, I want to hear what you say. What do you say? What do you think? We don't tell other people, well, everybody feels the same way as I do. We just represent how I experience, how I feel. Doesn't mean it's the truth, but the courage to really represent yourself. No more manipulation, no more laughing because you want to be on someone's side and want them to think well of you. If you don't think something's appropriate, there's a different reaction you can have. You don't need to be so offended, but you can say, when I heard that, I felt, or I experienced, or the story I'm telling myself. And I'm going to share with you how to do that in a minute. You let people in on the story that you're telling yourself. So like I was talking to the client the other day, and the client said, it seems to me that he's trying to manipulate and get things to happen outside of my awareness. And I said, have you let him know that that's how you see things? No, I haven't. Well, there's a way to do that. When you talk to other people before talking with me, and we're partners, the story I tell myself is that you're afraid to come to me, or that you think I'm going to disagree, therefore you want to get your way without my approval. What's going on? Now, when you're this direct with people, it's really scary. But let me just say this. People do what they do because it works. And the reason, for example, there's certain people that are bullying and aggressive and rude and overly directive is because they make other people so uncomfortable that people are afraid to address it. So they walk on eggshells, they avoid, they talk to other people about it. But when you take a pause and you build the capacity to question the intentions, a lot of times it really takes them off guard. And I will tell you that a lot of times, whether it's an employee, a partner, a boss, it doesn't matter what the level, this will throw people off guard because you are being so honest in saying what you see. And it may be a blind spot for them, and they may say, not true at all, just your interpretation. Does that mean you argue back and forth and say, no, this is really what you're intending to do? No, you simply say, well, this is what I need from you in the future. Can I get your agreement? That's the only way we can really be clear with people, is to tell them how we interpret something and what we need from them in the future. All right, so are there any, I want to check in for some questions and see if anybody has anything they want to say. Okay, someone said, kindly share more practical experience. Okay, we'll do, absolutely. Okay, where can you get my book? It's not out yet. I'm doing a lot of pre-marketing. It's going to be out in 2022. We just got the cover. I'm going to be announcing that before too long. But this concept is going to be really drilled down, and I will be sharing a lot of client experiences. Hi, Vicki. Hi, Vicki. So anyway, okay, more client experiences. Let's say that an employee continues to come in late, and this is just a general example. They continue to come in late, and you're aggravated, but you're afraid that you can't afford to lose that employee, which right now it's really scary because it's hard to keep employees. But you can just say, I noticed that you're coming in late. And the story I'm telling myself is you must be having some sort of problem. And I'm also telling myself that it's going to be a difficult conversation. I don't want it to be. It's just a way to represent what you're feeling, what you're thinking when someone does something, instead of pretending it's okay. When someone, let's take this example. A long time ago, this is before the sensitivities that we lived in today. I mean, I worked at a factory for 21 years, and I remember there was a person that used to kind of come by and rub your shoulders. Factory work can be very laborious. And I remember complaining to a coworker, and I said, man, I wish he wouldn't come by and do that. I don't really like that. Now, see, nowadays we wouldn't get by with that. But back then I felt that way, but I didn't have the courage to say, I don't like it, because everybody else liked it. They liked to get their shoulders rubbed. And this person sitting by me said, well, you act like you enjoy it. You always laugh and joke and you act like you enjoy it. You've never said that to him. That was an eye opener for me, that I had a responsibility to take charge of my experience and to say, I know the story I tell myself is that you're trying to help people relax because this is hard work, but my preference, I don't want the back rub. It makes me uncomfortable, and I don't want to have to excuse that. I just want to tell you the truth because I value our relationship. It's a different way to let people know what's going on versus later on you go say, well, there's been harassment. I'm getting touched inappropriately. I don't like that. I'm not saying that those things haven't happened, so don't misread me here. But a lot of times the conflict is caused because we don't have the courage to represent ourselves, take charge of our own experience, and say it in a way that the other person can receive it. So it's okay to say, I'm in a bad mood. But here's the thing. If you say I'm in a bad mood and it's not the time for me, that does not excuse you to avoid when you feel like you're in a better mood. So that's taking responsibility. And I can share with you, someone says, share more personal examples. Um, I was having some computer glitches and trying to figure things out. And it just turned into this black hole where I could not find my way out. And I was exhausted. We still hadn't eaten dinner. I had a lot on my plate to finish up. And I could feel the tension. So this noticing is a big part of this. And my husband was in there and wanted to talk. And I said, I'm going to be really honest. I'm not in a place. I want to be supportive, but I've had a rough time and I need just a little bit of quiet. That was really hard to do because normally I just try to stuff that down, but I'm feeling like I need quiet. Telling someone the truth about what you need so they can give that to you is so important, but we're so worried about hurting someone's feelings. But the truth is we're going to hurt their feelings later because we're not really listening. So then after that, my mom, she's elderly. I'm caring for her right now. She called and wanted to know about my day and was asking all kinds of questions. How did it go? And I said, okay, I want to be really transparent. I have no capacity to talk about my day or small talk, and it's nothing that you've done. I'm really tired. I have no more capacity, and I'll call you in an hour. I'll call you tomorrow. And that's what I did. After that, a friend of mine called, got time to talk. I said, no, it's been rough. And I feel like I'm going to get rude because I know my pattern that when I'm at capacity, I get sharp with people and things trigger me. So it's telling the truth about your weaknesses so that people can be in relationship with you. So I've got a question here. Why to control a manager who has trust in micromanagement? So I'm hearing, okay, so you're saying, I think, that there's a manager who's micromanaging. So it might be like when you give me a task, I want to complete it, but then when you step in and do it for me, it makes me nervous. And the story I'm telling myself is that you either don't trust me or I'm not doing it to your specifications. Now, when you say my perception or my story, you're not saying you're trying to undermine me. We don't know what their intention is. I'm telling you what my story is about it. A lot of times they're going to say, oh, not true at all. Or if they're aware, they're going to say, I didn't realize that. You can say, let's check in so that we can work on this. Let's check in and I'll let you know when I've gotten things done. Because sometimes it's just this, they don't know how to calendar. They don't know how to check in. They don't know how to be leader as completer. And they feel like the responsibility is on them. I've worked with enough leaders to know this. So there's a lack of clarity somewhere. So you say, what I want is I want you to trust me. And I want this clarity to where we check in and we change this pattern because it's hard for me to get my work done and be motivated. That's an honest conversation that's not about the person's character. And so it's just a story I'm telling myself, my perception, or how I feel like that. Like I'm feeling really angry right now in this conversation. So I want some time to process it. We'll circle back around. We don't have to be here tomorrow. But the integrity part is that I'm not pretending I'm capable or available when I'm not. And as we expand our conflict capacity, and I've been doing this for a while, it gets easier and you are available at certain times. And it does, you say to yourself, wow, a year ago, I would have been so upset by this, but now I'm able to stay in the conversation. Now I'm able to circle back around because I'm taking responsibility for my experiences. I'm not blaming someone else and seeing myself as a victim. I'm going to check in just really quickly. This is a question. Hi from Egypt. How do you encourage other employees to speak up on what's bothering them from their managers when they're afraid they'll be held at fault when they do. They listen, they're convinced, but they're scared. I hear you, Hagar, and really a lot of that is a cultural issue. It's a bigger conversation than what I can have here, but it's really about getting one person to have the courage to do that and then complementing that and teaching them how to do it in a way that's responsible. Because what you don't want is finger pointing and blame. And that's where we human beings tend to operate. Let's see, here's another one. It's a shame when detailed question is being experienced as micromanagement. Most of the time it's about responsibility. That's a great point too, Erna. That's a really good point. Like maybe it's not micromanaging. So we have to, this is another part of this today, is that we have to manage our narratives and clarify the expectations. Because if you think it's micromanaging, which the point is being made here, perhaps it's not. Perhaps that person needs more information. Through a conversation, you can clarify that. I know that I have felt micromanaged before, even as a consultant, when someone wanted to practice over and over and over, and I feel like there's no need to practice. I do this all the time. And it's just different needs. And so there is that grace and space that we have to give people. Oh, thank you so much, Abdul. We need more sessions. Well, you're going to get them because I'm trying to do 2 a month. And I say try because there may be a month where I'm not able to, but I am working on doing 2 a month. And I want to just take a break here to say this. These are recorded. I find them a little bit hard to find where they are on LinkedIn. It may just be something I don't know. But what I'm doing to compensate for that is I'm putting them on my YouTube channel. So if you want to subscribe to that, you can type in Marlene Chisholm plus YouTube. You'll find it. I'm putting all my LinkedIn lives there. You can also sign up on my web, Marlene at marlenechisholm.com, and then you'll be on my list, and I'll be letting you know when the book is coming out. I do put out a newsletter every Monday. So if you don't like that kind of thing, I get it. I don't like a lot of emails either, but if you want that, it's there. Yeah, grace and space. That's something I've been using a lot. Can I give myself some grace and some space? So here's one from Deanne Johnson. What if your company has given everyone the ability to circumvent their manager when they have an issue or problem by passing? That's got to stop. That's got to stop. There has to be a step-by-step process. So what has to happen there? The short answer, and we can talk about this more in the chat if you want to, Deanne, what has to happen is you have to go to the upper level manager that's doing that. And you have to tell them what kind of problem that's causing. That really is chain of command. There should be a process if the two can't get along, for sure, so that the employee feels protected. I often recommend that you let employees do a short survey of their manager once a year just to kind of get a taste of what's going on so that you're not blindsided at the upper levels. But what you have to do in this case is you have to, and I've had a client like this, you have to go to the upper level person and say, I need you to redirect them to me. And if need be, come with them so they can talk with me because I'm getting blindsided. And the story I'm telling myself is that you don't trust my leadership. You don't trust my leadership, and then you're making up a rule when you don't understand the full situation. I need you to redirect them back to me. Are you willing to do that? Then you document that you've had that conversation. So I hope that that helps. Let's see. Oh, wow. Let's see this one. What do you do if the boss makes very inappropriate comments about a female employee's body? Well, that's harassment. That's in today's world, you're not going to get by with that. You need to have a conversation about that. And you need to have a conversation. There should be a policy in place about those kinds of things. So, I know that you're probably, excuse me, power structures matter to some degree for our courage. But you have to say that's inappropriate. And if that got out, you would be in trouble and it would hurt our company. So you need to make it about the business case. Okay, we've had that one. Let's see. Got that one. I lost my job because my manager has trust in micromanagement. And because of him, when I explained nicely, it all went upside down. Yeah, unfortunately, those things will happen sometimes. So I would just say, what did you learn from it? And it could be cultural. It could be a misunderstanding. Again, some of these things, the context, I don't have that here in these short sessions. I'm sorry for you that happened, but trust your ability to get something else. Trust that wasn't the right place for you because anything else is not going to benefit you to see it in a different way. So now I want to talk about triggers. I'm going to talk about triggers, trying to look through here again. Aw. Hi, James, friend of mine. Just had a conversation the other day. Thanks for excellent guidance and speaking truth. You know the saying, the truth hurts? Sometimes it does if we're blind to it, but the truth will set you free. And intention matters, but if people don't understand our intention, um, that can be a problem too. Yeah. Yeah. Someone said, so true. I experience that anger often results from hurting one's inner child. That's very true. For those of you that don't study psychology and things like that, the inner child is that part of you that's the subconscious mind, the part of you that maybe was told things as a young child that you are still believing, even though it's not true. And the reason being is that like our brain waves are beta, let's see, beta, alpha, theta, delta. Children are in theta, which means their brainwaves are in theta until you turn 8 years old, and then you start getting into the different brainwaves. But because of that, whatever you're told, you make meaning from that, and that becomes the truth by which you live, and you'll never rise above the way you see yourself. So you have to question the things you thought to be true about yourself and the things that your parents, the clergy, your teachers told you. I talk a lot in this book about building a new identity, not the purpose of today, but I've done a lot of that myself, and it is quite a journey, but it doesn't have to be that difficult if you understand how it all works. So let's talk about triggers. This is all about rewiring. First, you have to notice your triggers. What is it that sends you off? For me, it's when I'm tired, when I'm hungry, when I've had some sort of a technical glitch or some sort of something that is infringing on my time. So I have to kind of notice that trigger. Then you have to, for most triggers, in order to heal them, this is the hardest part. You have to feel it, and you have to allow the space in your body and not react, even though you want to. It is very painful at first, but it starts to be kind of a fun game when you can let the energy of emotions process through and not act on it. Take that space, feel it, feel where it resonates. It could be in your throat, it could be in your stomach, it could be in your shoulders. Just let it flow through, because it's just energy that wants to go somewhere. The next thing is just to make a commitment to stop blaming. That's just our first reaction. I blame, I don't mean to. There's layers of it. We do it without even knowing that's what we're doing, but that's one of the things I listen for when I'm listening and coaching someone. I listen for them telling me how an employee talks, and if there's blaming language, I know that's part of the problem. And so you just want to think of blame as a shortcut to taking responsibility, to avoiding responsibility. Blame is a shortcut to avoid responsibility. We have to learn how to stop blaming ourselves as leaders so we can model it. And I only say this because it's more difficult than we think. And even fully responsible adults, me included, sometimes I blame. And I'm just working on catching myself to say, even though the facts are there, this happened, they did that, it was wrong, how can I take responsibility for it? And so what that means is you have to interpret, you have to learn how to interpret anger. I'm going to use anger as the feeling, the emotion that we're talking about here, because that's the common one that upset people so much. So you have to challenge your interpretations. And so instead of anger meaning they were wrong, and they are doing me wrong, and they mean to micromanage me, they mean to get in my way, they mean to, sideswipe me or blindside me. You say, you know what, anger is telling me something, and I need to listen to it. It's telling me that there's a boundary that's been crossed, and it's up to me to shift that. And anger is telling me that I'm not getting my needs met. Do I need sleep? Do I need food? Do I need support? What do I need to ask for? And am I afraid of rejection? Is that part of it? I have to face that fear. Does anger mean I'm just at capacity? I'm a good person, but I'm tired. I've been, helping an elderly mother. I've been having a computer problem. I've got deadlines on writing the book. If I'm at capacity, no matter how much I try, it's not going to work out. Just know the truth of it. So I'm going to end by giving you 3 rules to live by, and then I'll share with you where you can continue to work with me and follow me. So the 3 rules to live by, this is in the book as well. I am responsible for my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. I'm responsible for my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. Number 2, even better, others are responsible for their thoughts, feelings, and actions. And we understand that we have symbiotic relationships. So what I do can influence someone, but I'm not responsible for theirs. I'm responsible for what my part is. They're responsible for theirs. And then finally, disagreement doesn't ruin relationships, disrespect does. That's how we stay respectful. We have to really examine our motives all the time. Is my sharing of my feelings and my thoughts respectful, or am I intending to manipulate? It's all about self-awareness and integrity, and that's why I'm calling this Lead with Emotional Integrity. And so what I'm going to do is tell you how to connect with me more. I'm going to answer this one question: how to control negative thoughts or anger when a manager favors a low-performing team member and avoids to recognize other capable team members. You know, Sanu, complicated answer here, but you have to start asking for what you want. And you have to get curious. Like, I'm curious. I've noticed that so-and-so was, admired. I would like for you to acknowledge a couple of other performers. Are you willing to do that? All that you can do is ask. They can say no, or else you'll get insights as to why that's happening. Okay. What if your team misunderstood your emotional intelligence in a situation based as a biased step? It's a conversation. It's I want to hear you. It's radical listening. We talk about radical listening. How did you interpret that? Let me clean up anything, because I'm responsible for sharing with you my meaning and my interpretation. They may have misunderstood it. Yes, they're responsible for that, but you know what? When someone else is being irresponsible, you just have to only continue to own your part and to work with them as a person wanting to have the relationship. Thank you, Amber. Thank you so much. Okay, so here's how to work with me or see me more often. Connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're not connected, I'm glad to connect with anybody that says they are enjoying my work, or they've learned, read one of my books, or they've watched me on LinkedIn learning. What I don't like is someone to connect with me for the purpose of trying to sell me something. And so, if I have the relationship, that's a different thing, but I do get people connecting, and then all of a sudden they want me to be in their downline or buy real estate or get my website updated. And so I always connect if you like my work. You can follow me. That's a good way to get notifications when I'm going to go live. You can go to Marlene at marlenechisholm.com, or that's my email. If you go to marlenechisholm.com, that's my website. If you sign up on the front page, you'll get a download of a little PDF I put together a while back. It's a manifesto. You'll also be on my list. So I will be sending out emails once a week. So if you don't like that, I hear you. You don't need to do it. Then if you want to go to YouTube, you can go to YouTube and you can follow me there, because the videos go up there on YouTube as well. And you're more than welcome to have a conversation in the chat. We'll keep talking. That's new to me too. It's like, wow, it's a whole extra thing to do, but I'm willing to do it. Hey, from the UK. Thank you so much, Connor. Thank you so much. It's interesting because I almost had a book deal in the UK, and they said it was too emotional, too touchy-feely, and that people don't want that. They just want tips. And so I think we're human beings, and we all want to learn how to manage these dark sides, and leadership growth is personal growth, in my opinion. So that's a confirmation of what I already knew to be true. So I thank you for that. Hello from Egypt. Do you have other books? Yes, I do. If you go to Amazon, I have Stop Workplace Drama. That was my very first book. And that book has expanded, and it's into this book now. I have No Drama Leadership, How Enlightened Leaders Transform Culture in the Workplace. So those are the two other books that I have for managers and leaders. And then this upcoming one, of course, is From Conflict to Courage: How to Stop Avoiding and Start Leading. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'll be checking out, I'll be watching this, seeing where I can improve, seeing what questions I didn't get answered, seeing who I wasn't able to acknowledge. Again, you're welcome to participate on the chat. I'll keep it open the rest of this week, maybe next week, and look for me in 2 more weeks. We'll do another LinkedIn Live, and the way that you'll know about that is to follow me or to join me. Okay, thank you, and I'll see you later.